Well, it's better than the second movie, but that's not really saying a lot. I'm glad I didn't have high expectation for Venom 3. I just kind of went in expecting that maybe it'd be a little entertaining. Hopefully it would be better than the second movie. It was a combination of both. These films have not been the best films ever, granted, but I did enjoy the first movie, and the second movie was a huge letdown compared to the fun factor of the first one. There was just so much wrong with it. And I meant to actually go back and listen to my review of the second movie just to kind of refresh myself. I didn't have time to do that, but the one thing I do remember is that it was an unpleasant experience, let's just say that. Now, Tom Hardy, I like Tom Hardy. He's a talented actor. I've never really had a complaint about him in this role. I know some people have, those who are pretty familiar with the Venom character. I'm not super familiar with him, so that's not really a factor for me. But this movie, it's supposed to be a conclusion or a wrapping up of the story, and in some ways you could look at it that way, and then in other ways you could look at it as there being a possibility of things continuing. I honestly don't know. I really don't care. There are 2 post-credit scenes. I had been reading that there were 3, but there are 2. There's one shortly after the credits start, and then there's one at the very end of the credits. If you're interested in that, hang around. It wasn't anything that fulfilled me in any way. I could have left and been fine with not knowing what they were, just because my investment in this franchise is pretty rock bottom. But I'll see if I can pull out some positives to talk about. I honestly don't really have many positives. Well, okay, the main one is it's a little better than the second movie, but like I said, that is not saying much. At least this one felt a little bit more cohesive in certain respects. I remember the second movie having problems with just the narrative and just all this stuff, way too much stuff happening in too small amount of time. It felt a little bit better paced, but there were also times where things felt very fast-paced and convenient timing with certain events and characters that were thrown in there that didn't really feel like they served an actual purpose other than to just be there. There's a family he encounters and it's like, why? What was the point of them? Then there are, well, it was kind of cool to see that part of this took place at the Paris Hotel in Las Vegas, which I'm familiar with because I've been there at least twice for an event that my company goes to every year. I recognized the different places that it showed and I was like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. There is basically it sets up the story of this character named, what's his name? Null or something like that. And he sends these creatures out to find the codex, which has been embedded into Eddie Brock / Venom because Eddie had died in a previous movie or something like that, and he was brought back, and so now he has this codex. So the only way these creatures can see the codex is if Venom is in full form. In other words, it's not just him partially attached to Eddie, it's not just Eddie without Venom showing up, it's Venom fully formed. And the reason I bring this up is because that ties in with a problem that I had with a certain moment that happens in here. There's a scene, a really unnecessary scene. He encounters someone that he knows, someone who's been in previous movies, and Venom wants to dance. So now mind you, they already know that these creatures or this one main creature is after them and know that they can be very easily tracked if Venom is in full form. Well, Venom goes and manifests in full form just to do this stupid dance. Obviously, this was a moment for the plot to move forward, for the creature to find them and other things to, start to happen. But that was a really terrible setup. And of course it dawned on me as I'm watching it, oh, this is called The Last Dance and they're doing this dance. Okay, well, it didn't work too well, you guys. Something that I had taken a note on, but I completely forgot to mention it when I was filming the video review, was that there were moments in here, or at least one moment specifically. Now, granted, like I said, I don't know a lot about the original source material, so there are going to be things that people recognize or notice that I don't really, but it felt to me like there were moments in here, or at least one specific moment, that it was teasing other things to come, but that didn't really manifest itself into too much, so that kind of felt like just this empty thing that had been mentioned or brought up or whatever. I'm sure fans of this source material will probably know what I'm talking about, or will be able to spot even more things like that I did not. Okay, back to the video. Then there was another moment that happened that really that stood out to me. I mean, on top of other things just kind of being shoehorned in here, like the meeting of the family and these other things that were going on, but there's another part where Venom and Eddie have been captured, separated, and yet this creature thing is somehow able to track them to where they've been taken, even though Venom's not in full form, so there's no way in the world this codex could light up for him to track. So, see what I mean? Like, these narrative issues that were going on that I feel like weren't thought out very well. Probably a lot in here that just wasn't thought out very well. I was just a little bit happy that at least it didn't piss me off, like let's say Joker 2, or at least it wasn't as much of a terrible experience as Carnage. But at the end of this, it just feels kind of, I don't care. I don't care. I mean, obviously I cared enough to talk about it, but I don't really care enough emotionally to be super happy or super pissed. It's just kind of one of those deals. So that's about all I can think to say about Venom 3: The Last Dance. I had heard this film was supposed to be on track to get 150 worldwide. I'm curious to see what's going to happen. I don't think audiences are going to think this is the greatest thing ever, so we'll see. Okay, that's all I have for this one, you guys. So I'm signing off. Adios.